So hopefully.
Hello. Have you ever experienced something spiritual and quietly wondered, is this normal? Maybe you've sensed energy around people, started noticing repeating numbers everywhere, felt emotional for no obvious reason, or questioned whether you were imagining it. Well, tonight we're exploring some questions people are often afraid to ask spiritually, and some signs that you may actually be growing spiritually without even realizing. So, hello and a warm welcome to A Cup of SpiritualiTea. We're really glad you're here.
Yeah, we really are. This is a space where spirituality feels like sitting down for a cozy chat over a cuppa with friends. It's relaxed, open, and easy to understand.
And each month we explore spiritual ideas used in a simple and practical way. And today's conversation is all about spiritual growth, awakening, and those experiences many people have but don't always feel comfortable talking about openly.
We'll be exploring questions people often ask, such as, is it normal to feel more sensitive as you grow spiritually? And why do people sometimes feel disconnected from old friendships or routines? That's a big one. And can spiritual growth feel emotional or confusing at times? And why do repeating patterns, dreams, or synchronicities suddenly appear? And how do you know if you're genuinely growing spiritually?
Yes, and we're creating a space where we can learn from each other and connect with like minded people. So, whether you're brand new to spirituality or have been walking your path for years, there's always something new to explore together.
We'd love you to say hello in the comments, share your experiences or questions, and let us know if there's a moment on your path where you suddenly realise something inside you is changing.
And if we don't get to your question today, it may become a future episode because this show grows through community and shared curiosity.
Most importantly, this is a safe and welcoming space where everyone is free to explore spirituality in their own way.
So, settle in with your favourite cuppa.
And let's begin exploring spiritual growth together.
Cheers.
I have got mine here.
Ah,
Cheers. Bit late for that.
never mind. Better late than never. At least you've got it there.
I have.
Yes. So, better introduce ourselves for those that haven't met us. So, I'm Rae, and I'm a spiritual guide and healer, and I work with angelic Reiki, guided meditations, and exploration practices to help you reconnect with your inner guidance and walk your path with greater clarity.
And I'm Sally. I'm all about empowering women to be their best, most illumined selves. I do this through psychic readings, women's circles, goddess circles, and I'm a women's trauma informed somatic coach.
Yeah, so we might as well get straight into it. And I think one of the biggest questions that people are afraid to ask is, am I making this up? I mean, I get this all the time, especially when they first begin making
Yeah.
or noticing spiritual experiences.
Yeah. At the beginning, I used to get things through meditation, and I used to think that can't possibly be right. I must have just, read about it somewhere or something like that. So what I started doing was basically testing my guides, and I'd say things like, "Give me something I can Google." And then I'd go and Google it and find it was correct, and it would be something that I wouldn't have known. Like once I was asking my guide and he said the name Australia, and I thought he meant Australia, and I'd just watched a documentary that night on Australia. But no, I looked up the name Australia, and there was this lady who was an artist, and the picture she'd painted was, her name was Australia. The picture she painted was the exact painting that my guide had shown me. And that's happened quite a few times where we've done remote viewing, and we always ask when I'm teaching remote viewing to take us somewhere so we can guess, check that we're not just guessing. And one time we asked about looking in Yemen because none of us really knew about Yemen, and we actually saw where we were all in different places, and we could Google afterwards images exactly where we'd been. So the chances are you are not making it up. It is real. It's like Harry Potter and welcome to this new world.
Exactly, and imagination is, actually one of the key things, because what you imagine is actually reality. Because if someone hadn't imagined something like a wheel, the wheel would never have been invented.
Oh yeah.
So, it's something I always tell my clients, when we're doing past life regression, uh, you know, don't worry if you think you're making it up, because quite often when you imagine something, it creates that reality, or it brings in that guidance and advice you need, because you're starting to use that right side of your brain to imagine it.
That is so true. And then when you think about Leonardo da Vinci and things like that, he got a lot of his stuff through spiritually. So in a way, it was coming from his imagination first. Then he made um, the paintings, and then the Etruscan man and all of that stuff that he did. Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
I know. I love I love imagination. It seems a shame that quite often we tell young children, "Oh, stop imagining things," when really we should be encouraging their imagination.
Yeah, we really should. I mean, my guides appeared to me as well, angels, and they used to just be people I spoke to, and I'm sure that a lot of children have got imaginary friends who are actually their guides, and they're not imaginary at all; they're real.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Um, so, as Sally was saying, things can come on gradually. They're not, they don't necessarily, spirituality doesn't necessarily arrive with fireworks. It
no,
often begins quietly when you just start noticing things differently. Like your intuition getting
mm,
stronger, and as Sally said, you can test it.
yeah,
Another way is your phone rings before you even look at it. Start practicing. Just go,
yeah.
okay, who's that calling? Just go with the first name that comes into your head, and the more you do that, the more your intuition will start growing.
Absolutely. And I think another way to do it is to use oracle cards, but don't look
Mm.
at the guidebook and just see what comes in. Don't necessarily particularly look at the picture either. Just pick a card, see what comes to mind. In fact, back in the day, before, well, when we had tarot, but we didn't have oracle cards yet, people used playing cards,
Yeah.
and they would even not even have the front of the cards, it was just the back. They just needed something to focus on. And then you can move to things like scrying, looking in like either crystal ball, or I use garden quartz for scrying, or obsidian. But do you know what, one of my best ways is looking at clouds. Just lay on the grass and look at the clouds. You can get so much through, not just from the images of the clouds. It's like your mind becomes as open as the clouds in the sky, and this stuff, these downloads just come, and yeah, I think even young children do that, don't they? Looking at the clouds and looking for patterns and shapes and things, and it all helps. It all helps.
It certainly does. And another sign that you might notice is that you're drawn to spiritual topics unexpectedly. You never used to. You watch your Netflix all the time, and then suddenly Gaia TV appears, and you're kind of like watching all those, or you know, unexplained programs, or ancient aliens,
Yeah.
things like that you were never ever interested in before. You suddenly start being drawn to them, and that
Mm,
is often a sign that you're being going into the spiritual world, and spirit things are happening to you spiritually.
yeah. And you might find, for me, the start was getting interested in crystals, and I think that might be the start for quite a lot of you. And I always like crystals, but I saw them as like candy, just like pretty little things that you put around around your house. And then um, it's when I really tuned into the energy, and you can feel it in your hand, and then you realize there's more to it than just the prettiness. There's an energy, there's a vibrancy, there's like almost like a pulse of energy that you can feel sometimes from crystals. But it doesn't have to be like that. You can just see a crystal or hold a crystal and just feel this immense sense of well-being or uplift or calming, and that's the crystal working its magic. And just being drawn to crystals is enough, to start buying them.
Yeah, exactly. And it's amazing how that starts, growing. Someone I know was given a crystal as a gift, and they asked me about it. And then they went, oh, well, maybe I could get another one for this, and then that, and their collection, is building up quite nicely now because they're
Brilliant.
looking for specific crystals for, particular things. And again, numbers, you know, one of the signs that you're spiritually becoming aware is you suddenly start noticing numbers, and that's when you start questioning angel numbers. Oh, if angel numbers, then maybe it's angels. So again, it's just little steps that start you on that journey, that yes, maybe you are taking that spiritual path.
Absolutely. I had it. It was only a week ago, actually. I'm in the moment. I'm going through a bit of a transformation. I'm looking at different ways of doing things, and I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to continue with, what I'm not, and I'm just allowing things to unfold. And then under a week ago, I back onto some woods. You might hear the birds singing actually during this. I heard a cuckoo, and I've not heard a cuckoo for 5 years, over 5 years. And so I took that to be a really good omen that, cuckoos, spring, new life, that whatever it is that's unfolding for me, it definitely is unfolding, and just be patient and allow things to unfurl. So I'm really taking that on board. But I do feel I need to step in and say, when I was talking about buying all the crystals, I really feel I should step in and say that being spiritual doesn't necessarily mean buying stuff.
No.
I just feel that like I go to Glastonbury a fair amount, and you get the people who wear their Glastonbury clothes and they're wearing all the spiritual stuff, and they're probably like bankers, and they probably like during the week they're probably in London or something wearing sharp suits, but they put on their Glastonbury clothes and they wear their wands and have their wands and all of that. You don't have to do that. You don't have to buy the wand. You don't have to buy the crystals. You don't have to buy the oracle cards. That doesn't make you more or less spiritual doing those things. It's doing what makes your soul sing, doing things to help you connect, being aware of the wider world, being aware of the energies, the different currents in the world. That's where to start. You don't have to buy stuff to become spiritual. It develops and it unfurls. So you don't need money. You don't
Yeah.
need money to be spiritual.
Yeah, no, you totally don't. Nature provides so much for us.
Mhm.
And again, when you notice the numbers and you start talking to your angels and your spirits guides every
Yeah,
day, that doesn't cost you anything apart
no,
from time.
no. And if you're interested in divination, I made myself. I didn't think I was going to talk about this actually, but I made myself my own set of runes. I just got some little pebbles from the garden and some from the beach, and I just looked online for witches' runes, and I just do symbols with what they called sharpies. I just did symbols with indelible pen. That's free, and I used those a lot when I started out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so, explore, be curious, find new ways of doing things. And another sign of the you're going into spirituality, you'll know your height, you're raising your vibration, is that you find your emotional sensitivity increasing. And that could be to situations, to food, to perfumes, to all kinds of things.
yeah.
It's like I've never had any issues with food intolerances for my whole life. And then suddenly, that hit me several years ago. I was suddenly intolerant to dairy, to hops, to kiwi fruits. I used to love kiwi fruits, pine apple,
Interesting.
things like that I'd never had any issues with. Alcohol, I'm intolerant to alcohol. And it's not because I get drunk, it's because I just can't tolerate alcohol anymore.
Oh,
And I know.
yeah.
And that's, and that is a sign of spiritual growth, when you start becoming sensitive to food, drink, um, washing powder, people.
Oh God, that's a big one. That
Oh
is
my
a
God,
big
yes.
one.
Yeah, that person that never used to annoy you, my God, they annoy you now.
Yeah. Do you think it's to do with that our vibrations have raised, and that some of those other things are lower vibe?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I think it is, and you can kind of like tell, I think, when you're with people that are vibrating on sort of like the same level as you, because you feel
Yeah.
comfortable with them, and you can talk about all different subjects that you can think of.
Yeah.
And you're not worried that they're judging you for what you're talking about, what you're saying.
That's a big one, isn't it? It's about finding your tribe as well, and that's the other thing that will develop when you, as you're, opening up spiritually. You will find your spiritual tribe. You'll find a place where you can talk about dragons, where you can talk about talking to trees and that kind of thing, and it won't seem weird because everyone talks like that, and everyone has those discussions. I'm just trying to think about me when yeah. So when I alcohol was one for me as well. Although I can have a small gin and tonic, but it sends me doolally. It really does. It doesn't take much, and I'm that and meat. I couldn't eat meat anymore. Sometimes I need it, and so I'll get my husband when we're out to order steak, and I'll just have 2 cubes of his steak, and then I can't eat any more of that. But for me, the big one's people. I really find that if I've worked with a group of people, or even it once happened in oh my god, I think it was Home Bargains, and I just felt so ill and so drained I had to leave. And I think it's because everything in there was man-made, everything was plastic at that time. I'm sure they do wooden things, and yeah, I had to actually go out. I felt physically sick and I got the shake, so Ian bought me chocolate and stuff in case it's to do my blood sugar, but it wasn't. I just felt really ill because I'd done no protect. In fact, I think we had a show the following day, and you were saying, did you protect yourself? And I hadn't. And that was what it was. And then I think from then on, I learned that you do have to put yourself in a bubble of protection for those things. And even still, things can get in. So for some of us, it might be that after we've been with people or things like that, we need half an hour to ourselves, or half an hour grounding in nature, or standing on the lawn with bare feet, or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing is also questioning your old beliefs. I mean, as most people know, I don't like actually using this word, but it is a general word that people use, belief. You either know or you don't know, in my thing. But question your old beliefs. You might have followed one path for ages and ages, and then suddenly, you're seeing all these numbers like 1111, 333, and you're sort of like getting in connect with angels and spirits, and it's like, but that's completely different to what I've always believed in, what I've always followed.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that's the big one. I know
Hmm.
a lot of my guests on my show that have come from a religious background, that have got they've got into spirituality, and their belief system has completely changed.
Yeah, that's me. I used to be a Catholic and then a Methodist, and I shopped around a bit. And then, as my spiritual growth, as I grew more spiritually, I struggle with organized religion now because I see there's a whole spiritual side, and I don't see the need to have rules and regulations. We can just believe and just have, connect with nature, connect with God, connect with anything. We don't need a church or a temple or a synagogue or whatever to do it in. So I stopped going to church when I really developed spiritually. But for a few years, I still went, but it was like, oh, hi, Lou. But it was like I was hiding in the spiritual closet. And then I came out of the closet about 4 or 5 years ago, maybe, no, maybe a bit longer. It must be about 8 years now. And I came out of the closet, and it was like coming out of the closet, and saying to people, look, something I've got to tell you. I'm really sorry. My name's Sally and I'm psychic. It's like, hello, I'm Sally. I'm an alcoholic or something. Like, I'm sorry. But I was like, I had to come out to my dad and say, look, if I'm psychic, I can, I get messages. Luckily, my dad was so supportive, but yeah, it really was like that. Like, apologising to people. I'm so sorry, but I'm actually psychic and I wrote a spirit.
Yeah, and it's like now you wouldn't even apologize for it. You're like,
No,
no, this is
no, this is
me.
who I am.
This is who I am. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm lucky because I come from a spiritual background, not a religious background, so I've never had um, that issue. So I'm very grateful for that. But yeah, I've spoken to so many people that have that, which actually leads us on to why spiritual growth can sometimes feel emotional.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's not always peaceful and blissful, um, is it? Sometimes spiritual growth means becoming more aware of the things you've ignored for years, emotions, patterns, relationships, stress, and exhaustion.
yeah. Yeah, sometimes, yeah, you go along your life, you're all happy, swimming along, and these things come up. You just box them away. Then you have a spiritual awakening, and the lids of these boxes start coming open, and it's called shadow work. And these are all lessons, but in a positive way, not like a school type lesson. They're things that if you delve into and just allow yourself to feel those emotions and to work with them, they're the greatest gift, because every time you sort one of those out, you progress even further, you get less triggered by things, your vibration raises, and then things just bounce off you, and things get easier as it goes along. But it can be really tricky. And also, the things that used to support you when you had those things aren't necessarily supportive anymore, like going out for a Chinese, going to the pub, or
That glass of wine every night.
yeah, it doesn't work. You have to find other ways, like meditation, finding your tribe, mindful colouring, crochet, whatever the thing is. There's other systems to find along the way, but when you find it, there's a whole new magical world out there, and it is like, I would say, it is like you're going to Hogwarts, and there's this whole magical world.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't think you're doing anything spiritually wrong
Oh
because you
yeah,
suddenly feel emotional or overwhelmed, because it's often actually part of healing and becoming more aware of yourself.
yeah,
So don't be afraid of it, and don't try and hide away from it. Allow yourself to embrace it. If you need to take more rest, take more rest. If you're craving quiet nature, go out in nature, have that quiet time. Allow yourself to release emotionally. um, you know Let those old friendships go. Have those deeper conversations, because they're
exactly.
so important um, to you, um, that they're showing you that you are going in the right direction. You're not doing anything wrong whatsoever.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's important to understand that just because you are going through stuff, it doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It actually means you're doing something right, and that this stuff is coming out, and you're doing that inner work now, which is it's powerful and it's transformative, and it's a gift that we've been given to be able to work with. We all chose to come to the earth at this time to be us, and most of us who are this era, this age, we're all going through stuff because we got sent to clear down the rest of the karma, the ancestral lines, and we're mugs, but we chose to do it. Basically, it's hard and it's difficult, but we signed up for it. Weirdly enough, we did. So the fact that we're working on it is amazing, and that is what we're here to do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And I think out of that list, it's old friendships changing that is the one that most people think they're doing wrong because they just don't enjoy the same relationships with people that they used to have, you know, and that person you used to go down the pub with, you know, they don't get you anymore, you don't get them, and you kind of think, what am I doing wrong? Well, you're not doing anything wrong. It's just that you're spiritually growing and they haven't yet. At
yeah,
some point they will,
they will.
but
Yeah.
they haven't yet, and you have, which is where you allow yourself to grow and find new people to actually connect with.
Yeah, so when your energies are together, they like dovetail, but then gradually your vibration's raising and theirs hasn't just yet. So there's this mismatch. Sometimes, as Ray says, they will undergo a spiritual awakening and they will get closer to you. But sometimes it might mean not a breaking of a friendship, but just a parting of the ways. But you might find that you come back together at a later stage. I mean, although I have to be honest, I'm so blessed. My bestie is also very spiritual, and she's undergoing spiritual awakening. And the friends that aren't as spiritual, they accept me for who I am. So I'm really lucky. But I get clients all the time. I bet you do as well, Ray.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest things where you're drifting apart from friendships. But new friendships come along that support and sustain you and nourish you and to help you grow. So it's not bad.
No,
It really isn't. I know it sounds terrible. We're saying it honestly. It's not bad, but it really actually isn't. You know, it's a whole new world opening up for you.
exactly, you know, and you just have to reach out and ask for help, you know,
Yeah.
ask for people to come in, you know, and you've got the angels around you all the time, you know, you can speak to them about your relationships as well, you know, they can become your greatest friends.
And you can ask them to send friends your way as well.
Yeah, yeah. You know, so, and that's the beauty when you're on this spiritual path is you've got because you're aware of it, you've got so many energies and beings that you can ask for help and guidance from.
Absolutely, and they'll send friends to literally cross your path, and you'll meet new people that way. People who come into your orbit that were sent because they're the right people for you at this time, and they're a gift to you, you know. And they've been looking for somebody, and you've been looking for somebody, and you become friends.
Yeah, exactly. So don't be frightened and don't be afraid of becoming more spiritual. And you know, there are some signs that you're growing spiritually that we're going to chat about just to give you an idea, you know. And they're quite some of them are quite gentle signs that you might be growing spiritually without actually realizing it. Um, you know, so one of the biggest is self-awareness, you know, where you start noticing your own patterns instead of always blaming outside situations.
That's a
Yep.
big one.
Oh, that is the big one, and also you're beginning to trust yourself more. You know, you stop needing everyone else to validate your path. You know, so let's discuss some of these gentle signs. You know, stronger intuition, which I think we've already covered
Yeah, that's a big one.
on here. Um,
Um,
More compassion. Have you noticed how more compassionate you are about
I
people?
I have, but I'm having to be careful because I've gone the other way. So
Ah,
now, if even things like the film Avatar, I can't watch that anymore because I'm just so I feel so emotional about you know the Avatar land being destroyed or Watership Down. I can't watch that. I can't watch anything that involves any killing at all. And that and But also being able to pick up on people's emotions, being able to, and that is such a blessing because you can pick up even just I'm always talking about the queue at Morrison's. You must think that's all I do is go to Morrison's, but you're probably right. uh, I use it as an example all the time. I'm aware of this. Every show you can bet Sally's going to mention Morrison's, and we're not sponsored by Morrison's. I just need to say
we're not.
that'd be so cool though if we were sponsored by a food shop. Woo. um Yeah, so and you can feel that somebody needs a bit of extra TLC, or that they need a kind word, or they need, you to say something nice to them. So that compassion, it's a good thing, but it's also protecting yourself for things like sad films and that kind of thing.
Yeah. But then I think that's where the compassion actually, I think that actually shows you are compassionate. I mean, I've never been able to watch Watership Down, and I got scarred for life with Bambi when I was a kid.
Bambi, oh,
Um, I,
Dumbo.
oh my God, yeah. And those, because when I was tiny, and we are going back years, I mean, we are going back, yeah, many years. It used to be on a Saturday, you'd leave your kids in the cinema whilst you and your mum went to bingo. It was one of those things, you know, and it was the Disney films. You can imagine as sort of like a 7 8 year old in a cinema with other kids watching Bambi, no adults. It's like, yeah, that scarred me for life. Thanks, mum.
So for me, it's Dumbo when she sings "Baby of Mine" and she's holding Dumbo. Oh,
Yeah, but that's compassion. I think that's the sensitivity. I think as you become more spiritually aware and you become more sensitive, you actually become more compassionate.
mm,
It's showing that you're becoming more compassionate if you cry at those
true.
things, but you stop judging people so much, and you actually see things from a bigger picture, and you can actually have more compassion for somebody who initially you might have thought, oh my God, that person is just the biggest drama queen, blah blah blah, etc. But when you actually start getting more spiritual and you look at it from a high perspective, you actually have compassion because of what that person's actually going through that you didn't
Yeah,
realize.
yeah. That is absolutely true. That is absolutely true, and yeah,
Yeah. And I think another one is feeling called to simplify your life, because who doesn't make their life more complicated than it actually is?
yeah, I would agree. And so I also feel that the simplifying, it could be like cutting out the drama in your life, but for me, it was also about having to have a bit of a clear out, making my life as streamlined as possible, getting rid of the clutter because that helps mentally to be in rooms and not so cluttered. Also, I simplified my job. I stopped teaching and I now teach online, just because everything becomes clearer and everything becomes, you're more aware of your path and you know the route you need to take. And that sometimes means making changes along the way. But we're not saying to you that, for all of you, that a spiritual awakening means you give up your job. You don't. I was just, it was just me. But you do find ways of simplifying your life. It could be that you decide if you're on call all the time, or you decide that you're only going to answer emails up till 6 o'clock, or you're only going to, and you start putting yourself first a bit more. The compassion we're talking about, you start showing it to yourselves a lot more, and I think that's a biggie as well, putting in those boundaries, because we understand that we are worth it and we need it, and the compassion and love we give to others we also need to give to ourselves, and that, I think, people become more aware of that too.
Yeah. And you also become more present. You're aware that you're more present. You actually notice things more. You start noticing, you know, that that apple you're eating, you start noticing the texture, the taste, the smell of it. And there's such gentle signs that show that you're awakening spiritually that you may even just gloss over, but it is you becoming more present and more aware of what's going on around you and how it's going on around you. Such a simple way that
Mm.
for you to notice how you're becoming more spiritually aware.
Yeah, I mean, I regularly, when I'm walking the dogs now, I'll stop and smell roses, and smell flowers, or look at the bees, and I consider it that I've had a great dog walk if I've been able to see the moon, or see a bee or see a butterfly. Like today, we had a meadow blue kind of like leading us on the walk, and old Sally would have been so busy, come on, I've got to get back, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. But new Sally's just like, oh, watching the butterfly and seeing where she lands. And yeah, I'm going to use the word magic again because I obviously have a lack of vocabulary, but I think I'm not as articulate as I used to be. But I just see it as magic. It's just beauty everywhere. And you might feel that sometimes you might just look at a rose and just feel overwhelmed about the beauty of our planet and the beauty of the flowers, and how blessed we are, and how lucky we are to live here with all of this.
Yeah, it is definitely being more present, So everyone, anyone who's watching either live or the replay, have you noticed any gentle signs that
Yeah,
you're growing spiritually? I mean, one of the big ones is synchronicities. Everyone who knows me knows I go on about paying attention to synchronicities because we're always being shown them. And as you start becoming more spiritually aware, you start noticing the synchronicities so much more. That conversation that leads to something even better for you. That thought you had that comes from nowhere that leads you onto something else. You go and meet that person who then mentions something, and you go onto that person. So again, something to be aware of. If you're starting to notice synchronicities a lot more, that's another sign you're becoming more spiritually aware, more spiritually awakening.
yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah. And Presh says, I feel different. Yeah,
Yeah,
it is. You do begin to feel so much different. You want to start having meaningful conversations. If there's anyone watching, that I socialize with, I do apologize in advance, but sometimes your conversations, I'm so bored because they just don't interest me anymore. I'm not interested in the drama or anything like that. I just want to have a meaningful, deep conversation.
yeah. There's a real joy, isn't there, and in being able to not abandon but dig deeper than the surface level conversation and make meaningful, authentic connection, isn't there? There's a real gift in that, to be able to do that. um you know yeah, talk about the bigger picture, talk about, and talk about feelings, talk about the things that, nature, talk about expansion, talk about spirituality, anything. So like you were saying, the dramas, they, in fact, they don't even really exist, do they now?
No,
I don't ever have any of those drama type things because I don't. It's you mentioning that about dramas. I don't think I've had a drama for a really long time. They just doesn't happen, does it?
no.
And you still might get it where you disagree with somebody or they disagree with you, but then you sort it out and there's no drama involved.
No, exactly.
Yeah,
You accept other people's opinions. You have
yes,
your opinions, your thoughts, views, but you respect someone else's opinions, thoughts, views. You might disagree. You might disagree vehemently about it, but you accept that's their point of view, their thoughts, and if they're accepting that they're your points and views, then you've got common ground there because you
yes,
agree to disagree.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And obviously, again, another sign is feeling drawn to healing or meditation. That's the big one. You never thought about it before, but suddenly, oh, I need some healing. I'm getting more male clients now,
that's
that,
amazing.
that are wanting, angelic Reiki or past life regression to heal from their past. So it just goes to show that sometimes that spiritual awakening can come in any form, and you don't realize it till you've actually started taking that path.
That's true. Isn't that lovely that you're getting more male clients? And
Yeah,
it's like the divine feminine went first, isn't it? And we had to sort of get the ball rolling. And now it's time for the men so that we can get the male and female in balance again. That's
yeah.
lovely.
It is absolutely brilliant. I'm sort of like loving it, especially with the insight and the energy they're bringing to it as well.
Mm.
Is really good. And it shows that more men are waking up more spiritually now than they used to be. And in fact, if you do a lot of research, there's a lot of male spiritual teachers out there.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you have to use your discernment.
Yeah, let's put that in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
discernment is a big, big, big one. About that. But if they're there helping you expand and grow to take charge
Mm.
of your own destiny rather than telling you what to do, that's a big, big difference. When you're spiritually growing, the people that you look to help you on your spiritual path, the ones that guide you and encourage you, they don't tell you what you should or you
Exactly. It's
shouldn't
not
be
this
doing.
guru thing anymore. That's old paradigm. That's the old way. So
Yeah,
really, before you start working with somebody, particularly in the spiritual field, ask around, and then and see other people's opinions, particularly if other women as well, and then also really tune in and use your discernment. That's it. Don't just because somebody's got a lot of viewers or they're saying all the right things. Really tune in and use your discernment, because there are quite a few people jumping on the spiritual bandwagon. I've noticed
yeah,
people who like from things like like something like Towie or something like that. Somebody, things like that you where you wouldn't, and then suddenly they're becoming a spiritual guru and things. Just be careful with that kind of thing, and really go with what your intuition and your discernment is telling you. Because just because they've got a lot of followers, that just means they've got good marketing,
exactly.
basically.
Yeah, yeah. If I had if we had the money to pay for that
We'd be the
marketing,
same.
we'd be up there with all of them.
We
But
would.
what you get is the real, raw, genuine,
You actually did the skin version.
ethical version.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the ethical version actually. I
No, you
think
are right. We are
I
ethical.
think that's much more. Now we have covered a lot so far,
We
but
have.
we're now going to hone in on some specific questions that people have asked. So we've covered a lot of this, but we're actually going to really now down to the main questions that we've been asked. So the first one is it normal to outgrow people?
Yes. Categorically, yes. This is going to be good with my head doing that when we do the shorts. It'll look like it's buffering, but really it's just me being an idiot.
But yes, well, yeah, it is normal to outgrow people on your spiritual path because you are growing, you are expanding your knowledge, your information, your energy. So don't be afraid of it. It is part of spiritual growth. Embrace it because as you are outgrowing people, new people are coming into you. You're making space for them.
Can I just chip in there a little bit and say that I just feel I ought to say something like, so obviously I've got a husband, and he's not spiritual, not one iota, nothing, nada. But do you know what? It our relationship still works, and I just feel I need to say that just because you're having a spiritual awakening doesn't mean you need to get divorced and all that
No.
shazam. It really doesn't. Honestly, he's accepting and will let me chat about it all. And I know he's just smiling and nodding, but I feel validated that he's listening. And he's built me this cabin that I do I work in, and he fixed this laptop up. Have you noticed I haven't dropped off at all? Normally, no, I think we're on it. I think we're on it. Rae, we sorted it. And that, and so he's happy to help in any way. And so it doesn't matter that he is, obviously I'd like him to undergo an awakening, but it hasn't affected our relationship because I have my tribe, I have my support network, I have things like this where we do discuss. I learn something every time we do these shows with Rae. So yeah, so as long as you're being fed spiritually somewhere else, it actually doesn't matter. And I just feel sometimes clients come to me and they say, "Oh, I just feel this disconnect with my husband or my partner." You can work with that, but it doesn't necessarily mean you've got to split. In fact, mostly it doesn't. But in fact, my mentor, she actually said, "Oh, so when are you going to be getting a divorce then?" I was like, I'm not. Like, because in her day, she's in her 80s, that's what happened. But it doesn't have to happen like that now, because you find common ground still, and our relationship's as strong as it ever was. So I just thought
Yeah,
if anyone's watching and just thinking when we're talking about relationships and that
yeah.
kind of thing, I just thought I'd put in there.
Yeah. Well, going back, my mum's in her 80s, but when I was a kid, my dad wasn't spiritual at all, but he was happy to take my mum to spiritist churches,
Oh, nice.
when her friends came round and, they'd be talking about spiritual stuff. And obviously that was good for me and my sister because we got to tag along and be with the adults. So even back then,
Okay.
just because my mum was on the spiritual path and my dad wasn't, he was your typical working class guy. Um, he still supported my mum in what she was doing.
Brilliant. That's really good to hear, and that's so lovely.
Yeah, yeah, we were really, really blessed
Yeah.
with that. And another of the questions which we have kind of like covered is, why do I suddenly need more alone time?
Mm.
Because we do, you don't need all that busy hustle and bustle all the time. I like, the periods when I can just cut myself off from everyone and everything and just be, whether that's out in the garden, meditating, reading. It's just me time that allows me to tap into my true authentic self, to just be me and nobody else.
Yeah. It's time to like regroup and refresh, and even just like 20 minutes meditating, for me it feels like I've had a spa break or something like that, because you just get complete peace, and you can be at one with yourself, and it's like shedding all those layers that have built up during the day or since the last time you meditated, and you're just connecting with yourself and with spirit, and it's calming but also gives you that beautiful high vibrational energy, then that stays with you afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah. And another question is, why do I feel emotional around certain places or people? So, we're going back to the films. It's because you're becoming that more sensitive, that more compassionate person, and you're picking up on the energies of those places. I'm still happy to go into churches because I pick up the energy of the original pagan sites they were on.
Mm,
But also, if you take away the religious side of churches, you think of the beautiful love that's been built up in
yes.
those buildings, with the
Yeah.
hymns, with the laughing, the joy, that unconditional love that they have. So if you take the religious side, all that energy is there, and it just spills into beautiful spaces. I mean, I love going into churches because the energy is just so amazing.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. And I still do go into some church, not all, but there's some that I go in.
Yeah, so don't worry why if you feel more emotional with certain places or people, because that is part of the spirit of the spiritual growth, but it's just showing you how much more compassionate you're becoming, how much more grounded and authentic you're becoming.
Yeah. Authenticity has been a big one this show, hasn't it? And that is what we're getting back towards, isn't it? And people will see it in you. They'll feel this light shining bright within you, and they'll see your authenticity, see that you're real, and they'll want to know more. They'll want to talk to you. You know, they are attracted to you, and they don't know why, because you've got this peace, this calm, and this inner glow, and you know they need that. So they want you to talk to them. They want you to say a few kind words, or
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Smile.
yeah,
Oh, smiling is such a big thing. So of course, there's also the other question that people have asked, which I think is quite a big one. Can spirituality make you feel lost before you feel clearer?
yes, yeah. It can, particularly when you're starting out and you haven't found your tribe yet. That's why it's so important. Well, shows like this are so important, and finding your tribe, because yeah, it can be isolating at first, and until you've met people who are of a similar frame of mind to you. It can be, but know that it's only temporary. It isn't going to last forever, and you will find your people. You will.
Yeah. And ask, you're tapping into your spirituality. So ask your higher self, ask the angels, ask your spirit guides, ask the galactic beings, ask the trees, ask the animals, nature, ask them, thank you so much for bringing the right people to me so I don't feel alone anymore.
Yeah, and they will do that.
Yeah, they definitely will, I can say that hand on my heart. Clients that I work with will be able to say that hand on heart, that you are never alone. You are
No,
never ever alone on this journey.
no, there's always a spiritual support network, isn't there?
Exactly, exactly. So another question, and we've mentioned this before, is why do I keep seeing repeating numbers?
Hmm. That's
Um,
that one.
Yep, which it obviously is because you're being more aware of synchronicity signs, and you're recognizing the patterns of spirituality, which, quite often are in the form of numbers. So, that's why you keep seeing repeating numbers, because it's telling you you're on the right path.
Yeah,
Um, So, and again, another question is, that people have asked is, why do I suddenly feel drawn to nature? Especially if you're somebody who, was in a corporate world, and, you've just been doing that well, it's not 9 to 5 now anymore, is it? It's sort of like that 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Uh,
yeah,
thing. And suddenly you're craving, actually, I need to take an hour's break and go outside.
yeah, yeah. I never forget the day I actually realised I needed to buy wellies because I'd never had Wellingtons. Like, who is this person and what's she done with Sally?
So yeah, that's why you're suddenly drawn to nature, because you're waking up, your energy's raising, and you're connecting more with things that have more meaning than just the mundane 9 to 5, going to work, going to the pub, going home, sitting in front of the telly and drinking a glass of wine.
Yeah,
You're starting to crave more natural things, because that is what lifts you up, that's what brings you light and joy in your life.
absolutely.
And of course, one of the big ones, why do I feel different from who I used to be? When your whole identity starts changing, and that can be scary.
Look, think of it like a butterfly. You're evolving. You're the caterpillar, and you're evolving into the butterfly. You're shedding what needs to shed, and then you're going to come out as this beautiful butterfly. And that's the nature of life. We live in balance, and then we have a boost, and we start to grow and develop, and then we'll plateau a bit, grow, develop, plateau a bit, and that's the nature of the human experience. But
Yeah.
it's all good.
It is absolutely brilliant. So, if you're watching live or watching the replay, and we will circle back
Yeah.
to any questions. Are there any questions on spiritual growth that you've got, that you think, oh, they haven't covered this on the show? ask the question, and we will come.
Yeah, we
If we can't
will.
answer live here, we will do, or we'll come back to the comments, because we want you to understand that you aren't alone. That there are answers out there for any questions you've got about your spiritual growth, your awakening. Because there is so much out there for it. And at the end of the show, I'll put a couple of links up if you're watching this on YouTube, where I've gone into more depth with regards to spiritual awakening and signs that might help you a little bit more. But yeah, we just want to reassure you that everything's fine.
It is, and know that no question is too simple or silly, because you can bet your life somebody else will be thinking that exact same question. So every question, no matter how small or how silly or simple you think it is, please ask, because there will be lots of other people wanting to know that answer. You can bet your life on it.
Oh, I can definitely say that from where I've been in places in the past. It's like, oh, I don't know if I want to ask that question or not.
Yeah,
And then somebody else asks it, and you go, oh, well, so, yeah, people did want to know that question.
yeah.
I could have been the first person to ask it. I took it out of it because I didn't want to do that.
I love
So
that, because that's what I'm like. I was like, oh, damn it. Now I could have looked clever and asked the question.
exactly. Oh well, maybe I wasn't meant to ask it, but it just goes to show, if you're thinking it, the chances are there'll be somebody else that'll be
There will
thinking it.
be. Yeah.
There definitely will be. So I think one of the things to remember about spiritual growth is that it doesn't have to look dramatic, and that sometimes growth simply means being kinder to yourself, more present, more aware, and more connected to life.
Yeah. That's actually what I was just going to chip in, if you weren't going to say that, and say connected to life. So that's exactly what I would have said. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, remember, everyone's path looks different. There isn't one correct spiritual experience. My spiritual journey is completely different to Sally's, and it'll
Yeah.
be completely different to yours as well, because we all experience it in our own unique ways, but we are here to experience it as.
Yeah. That's exactly it. And yeah, each route is different and each route is nuanced, but each route is the path that's the best path for us and gives us the experiences, the knowledge, and the wisdom that's bespoke to us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now that we've explored the spiritual growth and we've not had any questions come in live, why don't you tune in to the energies of this month?
Yeah.
And what guidance are we being offered this month,
So
Sally?
I'll keep this short because I'm aware of the time. But what I've really been getting is that energy of spring now. So last month it was all about preparing the ground and scattering the seeds, the dream seeds, seeing what grew and what didn't. But now it's like, right, I'm going to make a choice about the things I decide to focus on. And it doesn't matter if they're the right things or the wrong things. It's about making a decision about the things between now and June the 20th, which is the summer solstice. It's the things you're going to focus on, putting your energy into those. And the way to decide what you should be doing is, if it's a choice of three things, think, does it bring me joy? Does it make my soul sing? And if it does, go for it, put in the work, put in the effort, but only if it's right for you and you're not going overboard. You're just putting the right amount of work and effort. You're not doing it to the detriment of everything else. As with everything, it's all about balance. And that is what we need to be doing until the solstice. Then we'll actually be seeing what has come to fruition and where we need to go next. So that's the next little stage.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that. So I'm going to use the Conscious Spirit Oracle decks by Kim Dreyer today. So as always, I'll give the cards a quick cleanse and a bless. And we'll see what the angels want. Oh,
To
okay,
get a
we'll go with
jumper.
that one. Excuse me. Oh. Right, we have got Crystal Ascension. I am attuned to the universal wisdom and energy of the crystal kingdom. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah. But it's the way it said ascension as well.
Yeah,
'Cause that's all kind of what we're talking about.
exactly. So, it's reminding you for this month, just be aware, be attuned to what's going on around you with the universal wisdom, not what you're being bombarded with. Okay, not with all the news and everything like that. Just take that out of the equation this month. You know, this is getting out in nature. It's finding your crystals. If you have crystals, work with your crystals. If you can get stones or pebbles, use those. But just allow yourself to tune into this universal wisdom that's out there, this beautiful collective wisdom that is there, that is shining through, is wanting to come through, and it's waiting for you to open up to it. And
Yeah.
this is your month that you can actually do that. Where those seeds were planted and they're now growing, that's part of your ascension. So embrace what's going on this month and allow that ascension to rise within you.
Amazing. Thank you. That really resonates.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
beautiful card. It's a beautiful deck. I mean, that's the back of all the cards.
That's so pretty.
I mean, they are so pretty. So, thank you everyone so much for joining us today for A Cup of Spirituality. We hope you found something meaningful to take away from this episode. And remember, this is your community, and we'd love to hear from you. And thank you to those that have said hello to us, like Lou here. Thanks, thanks, thanks,
Thank you, Lou.
thanks for joining us, Lou. And remember, you can share your thoughts, like this video, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss our next chat. You
And
know,
if yeah, and if you feel called to connect with us personally, you'll find all the details in the description below. Have you got anything coming up you want to share, Ray?
just this Sunday is my afternoon with the angels. So if you're local to the Dartford area, you can come along in person. If you're not local to my area, then you're more than willing. Then then you can join us online. You don't get the tea and biscuits afterwards, but you do get the beautiful conversation about angels, the community side of it, a guided meditation, and angel cards.
Absolutely.
Um, so yeah, if you're interested, uh, contact me to find out more details. And what about you, Sally? Anything coming up?
I've got my usual Sunday evening online meditation group. I have a Tuesday evening online and in-person meditation group. And that is all I've got coming up at the moment. I have just started a Substack. I don't even know if it's called a channel. I don't even know the terms. I've got a Substack. And you can find me under Sally Hart. And next, I might give Ray the actual, I think it's called a handle. I might give you a handle, but I have 5 subscribers.
Oh,
Whoop, whoop.
well
So if you'd like to subscribe, I would love to get to 10 by the end of the year.
done. Okay, we'll make sure that link definitely goes in the description.
So we're here to support you on your journey however we can. We really are, and it's a joy to come here and to work with you. But until the next time, take care, stay curious, and keep sipping on that spirituality.
Spirituality. Take care, everyone. Bye.